Welcome to We Built This Brand, where we pull back the curtain on the people, the ideas, and the wonderfully messy process of building something that matters. As I look back over this past year, there's one thing I've realized, and honestly, I probably should have learned it sooner. This whole thing only works if you can find joy in it. And I don't mean forced, Instagram-ready joy. I'm talking about the kind of joy that sneaks up on you in the middle of a conversation. The kind that shows up when something finally clicks, or when a guest drops a truth so clean and unexpected that you just sit there and go, well, all right then. 2025 pushed us, all of us, founders, marketers, creatives, to rethink what we're doing and why. And I discovered in these conversations that joy isn't something that waits for perfect circumstances. It's not the reward of the end. Joy is the fuel. It's what keeps the work human. It's what keeps the work honest. So today, I want to share some of the moments that shaped my year, and maybe yours too. And we're starting with a theme at the heart of our show: the human side of brand building. Behind every strategy deck and campaign launch is a real person, navigating doubt, inspiration, identity, values, and sometimes emotions we don't always admit out loud. And no one captured this better than James Bray.
When I first started out, I was incredibly curious. I was super inspired. I was super passionate. Then I became jealous. And I think jealousy is an interesting thing. Like jealousy, I just came back from Cannes, right? And I went into that, and you go into that going, I know what this is all about, whatever. And you might poo-poo certain things, and industries change. It's all about data, or it's all about media, or it's all about the gamesmanship that's played in these award shows. But I'll be damned if I didn't walk out of there jealous. If you're not jealous, then you don't want to compete. And I think if you don't want to compete, then you're not curious enough, you're not inspired enough, you're not passionate enough. And I think however you find your way to get to inspired, mine just became jealousy. And then in some ways that may not be the most productive form. I mean, if you're part therapist, you probably tell me that it isn't the most productive way to approach anything is through jealousy. But for a big part of my career, jealousy is what drove me to kind of push harder. And when I went off to Fallon, I was jealous of the incredible talent in the work that was being done there. And I wanted so desperately to be somewhere on the same page with those guys. And so I think the key to any young person who's out there looking for a way to be inspired or to find that thing is just be honest with yourself. And it took me a long time to be honest. And the honest thing was, I'm just a jealous person.
What I love most about that moment from James is how honest it is. Creativity isn't always pretty, and sometimes it starts with the uncomfortable stuff, the ambition, the insecurity, the spark that says, I want to do better. And that honestly connects beautifully with our next story, one about love, loss, legacy, and the meaning we attach to the things we keep and the things we let go. This is for Richer Jewelry. You said something that I found really interesting. You said pre-loved rings. How does that positioning play into it? And I think I know the answer, but I want to know your perspective on saying things like pre-loved in your marketing and messaging.
I think it's important to acknowledge that the ring, it's like, just because something ended, it doesn't make it bad. Like what all has happened. And so to call something, I think that there's this idea that the ring becomes damaged, or it's like there's this negativity associated with it, and like that's just not true. Rings are they are things independent of the meanings that we give to it. So we call it pre-loved because it was pre-loved. It was loved. It symbolized this love for this couple at this time, and it no longer does. But now it can create that symbol for you. It can continue to have a happy ending, just as you're creating this new happy ending. So it's not pre-worn or pre-used, it's pre-loved, and you can continue to love it.
And we also, just as a side too, I love that, Brittany. I'm like, let's use that in our social this week. That was so good. We also don't only get rings, that are the product of a divorce, right? We've had several that are the product of an upgrade, which means like pre-loved, like your spouse is going to upgrade your engagement ring, which means there's a lot of love there. We get some that the folks, maybe they just didn't like the style for themselves, but they're still planning on getting married, or they still are married, or even, they might have inherited it from somebody else and it isn't their style. So we do source from a bunch of places, and that kind of encapsulates that, like, there isn't bad juju. The ring is it's a gorgeous piece of jewelry ready for its forever home.
I think that's a good point, because I could see how people would be maybe off put by it if it was just used, or if it was, pre-worn. It just doesn't have the same cozy ring to it that pre-loved does. And I think that's a great perspective on it too, because it's not just always a divorce or always, someone passing away that you're getting rid of this ring. It's other reasons too. What I adore about that segment is how it reframes value. Meaning doesn't disappear when circumstances change. Sometimes the meaning becomes the bridge into the next chapter. And when you think about creative work, problem solving operates the same way. The first idea isn't always the right one, but the meaning behind it can lead you somewhere unexpected. And that is where Liz Beeler comes in, with one of my favorite explanations of the creative problem solving process all year.
When I think about creative problem solving, it's the awareness that there are many right ways to a solution. And it's about finding the best solution for that circumstance. Okay. And so whether that's for a particular brief that a client gives us, which is interesting because I think that oftentimes we have, I'll call it like the negotiation with a client over a brief of, what are you actually trying to solve? Sometimes, often when clients come to you and ask you, like, this is what I need you, like, paint in this box. You go, okay, but why? Right? What are we trying to do? And that's that moment of like, we're accountable to impacting business. And so it's important that we ask that question. And that's part of the creative problem solving question. It starts, process. It starts very early from that first moment of conversation, that first brief. So it's not just that creative output, which is, ultimately how it's represented in the world, but it starts there of like, if there is a unique business challenge, like when you look at Dairy Queen, which is, they are known, and I mean, like, childhood love for Dairy Queen and soft serve there, but that's what they were known for, and they've expanded their whole product lineup. How do you support a brand that's gone from, years and years of being known for treats to expand into other food, like your chicken strips? Like, how do you support them in that change and without losing your core base? And so to me, like, what a cool problem to solve, right? Because, well, who doesn't love both those things? I mean, so when I think about it, that's like in particular to a brand. There's also creative problem solving of like what to know about people today. I think that we're in a very interesting time where you can express and discover your identity in so many different ways. And I think it's amazing. And ultimately, identity is core to who we are as individuals, but it's also, we talk about connection. Identity is what brings people together. It's how communities form because of some similar, aspect of their identity or beliefs or, even just interests. Like, hey, I love sailing, so I, surround myself with people that love that too. So all of those things are considerations for how you creatively problem solve. There's no kind of two similar problems.
I love how Liz breaks that down. Creativity is exploration. Identity as a lens. It's such a grounded way to think about possibility. But sometimes creativity has to scale, from an idea in a room to a moment that reaches millions. And that takes a different kind of courage. Which brings us to Michelle Fisher, and one of the coolest rebrand stories we talked about all year, and one of my favorite hockey teams of all time, the Anaheim Ducks.
What's really unique about this NHL team is that it started in Disney and it started as a movie and it turned into a real team, and a lot of the nation and globally, actually, there's a lot of Ducks fans globally. They were brought up on this movie and there's such a strong connection with them, with Disney. And with that actually came with its own kinds of perception of it being this kind of, kid-friendly, non-aggressive kind of hockey team. And they really changed. I think they kind of shed that perception a bit once they won the Stanley Cup in 2007. And, there was also too, there was a handful of years where they like made it to the Western Conference like championships, and they were a very notable name in its own right in the NHL. But in recent years, I think it like up until 2018, they were like really, really competitive. And then they came to us at a really interesting time for them. They were on the onset of rebranding themselves. I don't know if you follow hockey or not, but I didn't actually. I got just really geeking into it. So the Ducks, they were going through a rebrand with the logo, and they were creating this amazing kind of mixed use space around it with entertainment, restaurants, that kind of thing. And then they were also in a rebuild period. So they have a really young team that is, they're coaching and developing. They really want to reinvigorate fandom, the fans, and get people into the arena, Honda Center. And it's really challenging when you have a team that's rebuilding and the players. And that was the challenge with them. It was to get these fans excited for all the foundational things that they're making, like with the in-game experience, that new complex I was telling you about, and then the rebrand, which so many fans like completely loved. They returned back to that like mask duck face versus the web. Yeah. I mean, it's so iconic too. It was also like has the heritage from the movies as well.
Yeah, it's a good throwback.
Yeah.
And then I noticed the color selection for this rebrand was heavy on orange, as opposed to the purple and green that maybe we're more familiar with. So what led to that color change? I'm sure that was probably a much more lengthy discussion than most people would assume.
Fans were very much in love with their purple and teal, but one of the things that the organization really wanted to lean into is their loyalty and love for Orange County. And Orange County is known for their oranges, like their history is in like orange groves. So they really leaned into that color, and they knew there was going to be a lot of kind of pushback from fans, but they boldly and, with pride went with orange.
Yeah, it's definitely a good call. So what has been the response then? And you said you were anticipating some pushback, but how has it been received?
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe I can kind of take a step back about what like Battery was kind of partnered to do here. So they had these kind of pieces in place, but with the big task of reinvigorating the fans and the players being kind of subject to change all the time. Like we couldn't lean into the players and the team. So the challenge to us was, how do we bring back pride fandom to our fan base? And we're like, Orange County is where it's at. Like, I'm actually from Orange County. I grew up there. I spent my weekends in Compton, but lived in Orange County. And with that, and I know that like the residents of Orange County, there's such a diverse population of people. But then people from the outside don't really know that. Orange County is often kind of labeled with, kind of like dated stereotypes of like the Real Housewives of Orange County, Laguna Beach, when that was a thing, beautiful beaches, very cush lifestyle, one note type of people. And Orange County is very, very, very different from that. And we want to lean into that and kind of fight off stereotypes and bring this kind of more edgy, gritty persona to the Ducks. So we had this platform line called "You're Entering Orange Country." And that was our kind of brand platform to kind of set off bringing back fandom, not just core fans, but people from Orange County who could relate to this and say, yes, we are we are Orange County, there's a lot of things to be proud of there.
If the first theme is about humanity and identity, then this next theme is about longevity, building something that can actually last, sustainable growth instead of hype. And to kick us off, we're starting with joy. Not surprise joy, not forced positivity joy, but the kind of joy that transforms a job into a calling. Here's Dale Dupree. I notice, you talk a lot about the joy of selling. Dude, sales is not always joyful. You know that. And I think it's counter-cultural almost to talk about it being a joy and something people can love doing. Because for me, I know through my career, it's been all right, this is the job, this is the career I chose, this is the path I went down, this is what I'm stuck in. For me, that's a challenge. So tell me more about that finding of joy. What does that mean within sales to you? And I mean, you've said a lot of it, I think, here, but I'd love you to kind of sum it up.
Yeah, life is sales and sales is life is the way that I look at it. I don't box sales into some kind of compartment. I see sales as a literal motion of life. That in sales, just like in my life, I'm going to meet strangers and I have the opportunity to be impactful to those people, to give them something, which is, again, going back to the principles of servant leadership, but also to the principles of just being a good person and living a good life. So if we really look at life is, we wake up in the morning, we do, 8 cold plunges and, 7,000 push-ups or whatever y'all do.
And roll a banana on your face and all that.
Banana water. And then we go to work, right? We eat lunch. We get out of work. We hang out with friends, watch Severance,
yeah,
whatever. Life is very predictable, ultimately.
Yeah.
It's the same thing over and over again. And it's very simple things. And those things do what for us? They bring us joy, except for work. Right. And the way that you described it, I think is beautiful because it's well, life hasn't been good to me, bro. When I think of what you just said about sales, but I still find joy in life all the time. I think that the real opportunity is finding the failure. That's what brings you joy. I love it when somebody says something like, you know what? I don't like what you're sending me in the mail. It's weird. It happens. It's rare, but it happens. I love that. I love to say to that person, sorry that it came across that way for you. I'll cease and desist, hang up on them instead of trying to do something crazy with them. And then immediately I'll do a little research, call the front desk. Hey, what's Jeff's favorite thing? And then like a ghost or a fart in the wind, right? I'm in and out and no one even knows I existed. I'll send him something without my name attached to it, nothing, and just say, hey, someone out here wants you to know that you're appreciated. Because when I hear some people say things like that, I think, man, they don't get enough joy in their life. They don't have the things that I have. They don't have a incredible wife. They don't have 2 amazing kids that I shouldn't even have, bro. I should be dead. My story is that 2014, I should have been gone. Right? I'm a miracle. I'm a product of grace. So when I think of joy, I think, bro, everything in life is joy for me. Right? Again, because of my story, because of the things I've experienced, because of the fact that I shouldn't be sitting here with you right now, which gives me chills every time when I think about it. Just how miraculous my existence is. And I totally take advantage of it. I eat too much, I play too much, right? But I love my life. I love the good. I love the bad. I love the indifference. I love the ugly, all of it. I find joy in it instead of stress and anxiety. I'm a patient person. I seek out moments where I have to test that and challenge that. And in sales, I think when you make the commitment to it, what you have to understand is that because it's a part of life, that's why it's the hardest thing for people to do. Because me and my preferences, I would prefer that my life look like this. But I am not the driver. And that's the thing that most people don't understand. I might impact the decisions through my action and my free will, if we even have that in the first place, right? Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but sure, I have to be the one that makes the decisions. But man, if I could just surrender and die to myself every day, my life would be full of joy. And those are the decisions that I made a long time ago. So a kid is getting out of hand at the home front, standing up in his chair, screaming and yelling at his mom. Sure, there's an appropriate way to to reprimand that child and to help that child learn versus one that's not. But you can find joy in that moment. Just like when someone tells you to F off and never email me again, you can find joy in that moment. I'm going to write an email. I'm going to print it. I'm going to send it in the mail, and with a little note that says, hey, you said never to email you again. So I sent this one in the mail. And literally when I call back or behind that guy, either they have a restraining order, it's over, Dale, or they got a really good moment from that. Even if it wasn't like a chuckle, it was more like impressive, right? Or intense. Can't believe this guy actually did this.
Yeah.
Which hopefully just opens people's mind to what joy really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, the way you're describing it, too, it's not just, and I've always thought of joy this way, too, of like, it's not just about having fun. Joy is really more than just being pleased with something in the moment, or, something that, like what Marie Kondo, like, sparks joy in you. It's not just something that makes you happy. Joy can be something that you feel even when things are tough. And having that ability to identify that, I think that's a great perspective on it, because a lot of people, including myself, you're going to get down on yourself. You're going to get frustrated. Oh, I didn't close this. I didn't close that. Oh, this didn't go my way. And all of a sudden things start to fall apart. And it's really easy to get stuck in those moments and then just to give up entirely. So I think that's a really good perspective on it. So that's awesome. What Dale says there, that really hit me hard this year, because joy doesn't eliminate the hard parts. It redeems them. It gives them shape and meaning. Want to launch a podcast without the hassle? HumblePod makes podcasting easy. From concept to launch, we'll help you create a professional, engaging show. Already have a podcast? We handle editing, show notes, transcriptions, and even video production, so you can focus on your content. With our tailored services, you get high-quality production, seamless publishing, and expert support at every step. Whether you're starting fresh or leveling up, HumblePod ensures your podcast sounds amazing and reaches the right audience. Visit humblepod.com to get started today. And if we're talking about giving meaning to a moment, few people have done that at the scale of Arnie DeGeorge, whose work helped shape the cultural identity of an entire city. Let's head to Las Vegas.
I think the really, really fun stuff started when we started with the positioning of adult freedom, and we worked from there. And one of the early campaigns, even before What Happens Here Stays Here, was all based on freedom. We had an ad called Freedom from the Man and Freedom from Reality, and a few ads like that were really, really nice pieces. And we thought we were going to go down that direction, and then something happened. I think 9/11 happened, or something, something else that disrupts you, and we're very much like when something like that happens, we kind of stop everything, because we know people don't really want to live the advertising world. They want a more comfortable world. So we do something different, and that made us basically kind of take a look at it again. And then we started going down the road of What Happens Here Stays Here, and so it, for us, was a very good thing, because What Happens Here Stays Here allowed you to do things that no other tourism campaign had ever done by a wide margin. And we can get into that. It basically allowed you to not show the destination. It allowed you to use your imagination as to what your experience was going to be. What Happens Here Stays Here, we didn't tell you what happens.
Right.
So you could be, what happens to you could be anything you can come up with in your head. And so that was the magic of that campaign in the beginning. And eventually we started to show some of the destination. And when we did, it was great, because then we showed it in a way that showed the kind of tricks and games and fun you could have being somebody else, or doing something you couldn't do at home. And so we expanded it down the line, and we made it last for a long time by really, really kind of just bringing it along pretty much as far as we could bring it.
Yeah. So a place where you can achieve what you want to achieve, or do that crazy thing you've always wanted to do, which has been perpetuated by Hollywood and culture just over the years too. I mean, what happens here stays here is ubiquitous with the city now. That's what I think of when I think of Vegas.
Well, it's in, even before we kind of took ownership of it, it was in people's heads as far as traveling went. What happens on the road stays on the road. We just knew that it was perfect, that it was a perfect truth for us, and truth's super important in advertising, because you got to get in there and inside people and everything. And so they bought into that because they knew it anyways, and they knew that there was no better place than Vegas for that. So that's how it really, really took off, and it became part of what everybody thinks about Vegas, and part of the city, and part of the culture, which is pretty incredible.
That's one of those stories I will never get tired of hearing. A single line: what happens here stays here. Reshape the way an entire culture thinks about a place. But not all brand love comes from massive campaigns. Sometimes it comes from something small, personal, unexpected, meaningful. Like socks. Really good socks. Or good socks, if you're being honest. Here's Patrick Collins.
One that immediately comes to mind, just because I'm in the middle of it, or I'm in the middle of sort of year two, an extension, is a campaign that we've been working on, a brand campaign that we've been working on with a brand called Darn Tough. And they are a sock brand, family owned, based in Vermont, and just extremely beloved. So it was one of those, sometimes we joke here, like when we win a piece of new biz, someone's either friend or parent. I mean, hopefully we're all very excited too, but there's always that like, oh my God, my dad's freaking out. You're working with like cat footwear or whatever it is. And for this one with Darn Tough, we had a lot of our team and parents were excited, because it's just a very, like I said, beloved sock brand, but it's also, they sell at REI, they sell at a lot of local independent stores. It's a big like hiking sock brand. And they're extremely comfortable, and they also have a lifetime warranty. So there's just like all these great things that check a lot of boxes, and a lot of boxes for like parents of adult children, and something they can put in a stocking that feels very like special and not throwaway. But they came to us just last year, actually, for their first ever brand campaign. So they've had just like this consistent, they have a great marketing and brand team, but in terms of working with an outside agency, they've just had consistent growth over time. But they, similar to Chaco, we're starting to reach that sort of like, we can stay on this path and that's great, but we have such great product, such great, really incredible internal company culture. And just so much brand love that we feel like there's audiences sitting, like, whether it's a town over or, they're in Vermont, all the way over in California, that just would love our product if we gave them a chance to learn who we are. And so, from what I've just said, brand awareness, obviously a big part of that brief. And we developed a campaign for them that's called Darn It. So it ran last year. And
I love the pun.
It's amazing. Yeah. And Darn is, within their brand name is already a pun, because it's to darn wool and fabric is to sort of mend it. But the big sort of unlock there, and something that I think is another really important part of my strategic practice, is that like in-person immersion, or, can't always be in person, but in terms of really getting to know the stakeholders, it's not just about like absorbing old brand books and getting sent like the consumer segmentation that a different agency did and piecing everything together. That's a big part of it. But usually like that, we like to say like hidden gems over here, right? Like we like to find a brand's hidden gem. And usually that's not going to come reading 500 pages of different decks. It really requires like those one-on-one meetings, those conversations with the founder, that like, even the conversation with the employee that's been there for like 3 months, and it's like, what drew you here? Why did you apply for a job at this company? And so we flew out to Vermont, our team, and spent a couple days with them. We got to walk around their mill. They make everything there. It's all American made, and got to meet the founder and hear about sort of his vision and how the company organically grew. And in doing all of that, we knew about the warranty, but it's something that's just like, it's nice, a warranty at that point is sort of just like a nice to have. And warranties right now within consumer goods are so confusing, because usually they don't mean much, right? Like there's so much fine print. And when we were at the mill, we went to their warranty department program. And it was just incredible. Like we each got to open a bag of socks that had been returned. So each of our teammates, and we're sitting and there's like dogs all over. It's just like the most like picturesque sort of little place that you'd imagine. You're like, oh my God, these businesses still exist. I can't believe that. And we open them up, and in every single one is like a letter. And it's like, I wore these throughout my entire college experience, and they went with me to 3 different continents, and I'm so sad to give them up. But there's a hole in this one, or it's ripped here, or it burned here. And I mean, just the most incredible stories of like wearing them, you know, in Afghanistan or like to their wedding, and just crazy. So an incredible amount of brand love. And they get these wedding invitations, but within that, they also had on the wall in the back some of their favorite letters, and they had pinned these socks that were like the funniest stories. So it was like one in particular that was like very disgusting, but the dog, it was like this, the sock may look okay, but my dog ate it and then it came out the other end. And they were like, I don't know if this fits your warranty guidelines, but this is my favorite pair of socks. And because it's a one sock you have for life, they're just like, I want the replacement. I paid for it. I want this sock. And so we came home, and in finding and uncovering those gems, we were like, okay, so one thing that's clear, we all felt so inspired being there. In the company culture, which is so important. I think like the output of a company, the output of a company culture, if you can successfully let the world know that through brand communications, job well done. And so they checked that box. They checked this like insane rabid fan base and consumer love, and people that like aren't just, the average return or amount of warranty is like fill out, print out the return label, send it in. And yet people have watercolor paintings they've done of these socks. And then lastly, as we sort of looked at like the landscape and the competitive landscape and the outdoor landscape, we were like, okay, everyone's warranties and return policies are crazy, so much fine print, they're all going away. And so we sort of like wrapped that up into like, what's the pointiest campaign we could do there? And it was darn it, because it was, okay, we need to build brand awareness, so let's get the name in the campaign tagline and platform. Darn. We want to focus on the consumer stories and the consumer love and make people really feel seen. So we built it all around these little stories, and we've just filmed 3 more last week of sort of hyperbolic scenarios where people are, where their socks are getting destroyed. But ultimately, the most important unlock was we need to double down on the warranty. So the whole idea is like, life's tough, our socks are tougher, guaranteed for life. So it's all pushing, it's like taking that emotional side of the strategy and pushing it entirely into like, because if you can't go all emotion, you still need the functional, like, why should I buy this product?
I still laugh at how quickly those socks won me over. But Patrick's bigger point, the emotional truth behind a brand, that's what sticks. And when you zoom out, authenticity and emotion are inseparable from culture, which is why this next conversation with Ty Randolph and Katie Sue is such a perfect bridge. Because if you want to understand modern brand building, you have to understand niche, community, and fandom. And yes, sometimes that even means listening or watching K-pop Demon Hunters, as I have at my house probably 1,000 billion times, which, side note, is also the top 5 songs in my Apple Music top music playlist, and it's not because of me, it's because of my kids. But regardless, let's just get into the clip before I embarrass myself further.
The biggest trap most founders fall into during these markets is if they start to see success on one side, they think, oh, I should go and launch those 3 other companion products. It's like, no, just focus on the one thing, get exceptionally good at it, have that be your core business until it can fund your next thing. Because then you're going into multiples. Then you're really thinking about the value of the company in the long term. But yeah, I think this is like the kingmaker era, right? If you can carve out X percentage of any industry and any company today, you could technically
you can do anything.
You can do anything, right? I am absolutely obsessed with K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Number 1.
It is incredible. My son can't stop singing the songs. It is the only thing that plays in the car. And the thing that's appealing about it is not only is the IP incredibly attractive and appealing to a multi-generational household, it also has so many legs for sequels, prequels, consumer products. You're talking about a very rich universe that has suddenly been created, exploded overnight, global, tapped into K-pop, tapped into music, tapped into pop culture, and has defined this next chapter for a young adult audience. Think of how many children watch that, and that has become a core memory. And for the rest of all of us parents, we will be buying those toys and products, right? So to me, I feel like if you can generate a brand or an IP that has that long-standing effect, that hits that many notes and that many genres, I mean, that's incredible, right? Like if you think about it, think about that pitch. It's about like demon hunters who are K-pop bands saving the world, right?
I know.
If Ty and I were to go and pitch that today, we would be great, but like still.
But still, there'd be some enemies will be left out.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the fact that it landed and it worked, to me, I feel like that's what brands are supposed to do. They're supposed to affect you not just emotionally. There's a lasting impact and you vote with it and you pay for it. Like, I know I'm going to buy a lot of that now. I mean, I already have those songs living in my head rent-free right now, right?
Absolutely.
So that to me is an incredible universe that just got created, hyper relevant, and all of us are in it. Like that moment I said that, all of us knew exactly what that was. That is a powerful brand and IP.
Theme number 3, building brands in the age of AI and constant change. The world is changing fast. New tools, new expectations, new ways of reaching audiences. But underneath all of it, creativity is still human. To close out this best of, I want to share 2 moments from Alex Ganji that helped me make sense of the year. First, how AI fits into the creative process. And second, why the wonder hasn't gone anywhere. Now here's Alex.
I think you touched on a really great place where AI comes in handy for a lot of the individuals. It's in the brainstorming process. It's in that part of the storyboarding. It's in the part of visualizing. It's in the part of thinking about what you want to create. You can even just talking to a chatbot sometimes can get you a lot closer to, and I'm even talking about text. I'm not even going into visuals. Can get you closer to an idea of what you're trying to sound out. Now, you know what is right. I mean, like there was a thing when I was an English major, right? And when we were doing writing, a teacher always said to me, someone can tell you what's wrong, but they can't tell you how to fix it. And I think AI is the same way. Even if you're working with AI, you can get to a point where, you're like, okay, what is the answer? The answer is the answer that you come up with. It's not the answer that AI is going to come up with.
Once you understand AI as a tool, you can start to appreciate the imagination it unlocks. Let's go on to that second clip.
There was so much fun stuff you could do with it even 2 years ago, because it was this it was in this area it was creating this content that you have never seen before. It was weird, but it had a wonder to it at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just always, it wasn't perfect, but it was perfect in its imperfection, because there was some really fun stuff you could do, which is now gone almost, especially if we're just talking about video generative content, which I think is like one small aspect of AI, and honestly, not even the most interesting aspect. That's just like, oh, we can make stuff for cheaper, we could and more people can do it. Okay, cool. That's been happening for years and years and years, with like film cameras turning to digital cameras, turning to like, oh, now I can basically shoot a film on my cell phone. And now it's like, oh, now I can just imagine a film and type it into a thing and it comes out with a film. It's like, and then cut it together. And you still need to have some basic skills to do it. But
of course,
that's just the direction that that content has been heading in. So none of that it's intriguing. I love seeing AI films. And I don't love the ones that replace the artist, necessarily, but like it's a tool. It's another tool to create content, basically, in my mind. Artificial intelligence can really bring it can speed up your workflow a lot.
As I think back on these conversations, I keep coming back to the idea of joy. And I know, in the year where the economy feels uncertain, politics feel exhausting, and every phone notification is just one more thing to worry about, joy can sound almost silly. But joy isn't surface level happiness. Joy is purpose. Joy is meaning. Joy is the thing that carries you through the heavy seasons and reminds you why you're building anything at all. Every guest you heard today brought that to the table. In big ways and in small ones, creativity, authenticity, community, courage, they all flow from the same well. So as we wrap up 2025, my hope for you is simple. Find joy in what you're doing. Find joy in the people you're doing it with, and find joy in the stories you're creating along the way. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And we'll be back soon in the new year. Thank you for checking out this episode of We Built This Brand. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on your player of choice. You can also keep up with the podcast on our website at webuiltthisbrand.com. If you like this episode, please give the podcast a 5-star review and make sure to tell all your friends about it so we can continue to build this brand. Looking back over it all, it's crazy to me how much we've done, how many people we've seen. Like, I'm just so grateful for just the opportunity to be here and to be doing this on these cameras and everything, man. Like, it's humbling, pun intended.